Hello, my name is Jon Witt, and this is learning how to balance in a handstand. So I'm going to give you tips today as far as building a fundamental practice, and how to calibrate the weight and how to build some strength in the hands. So I typically use like wall walks, which I think are eventually what you should be using for your handstands. That's a big staple in my own practice as far as learning how to balance better, and just it's very good for conditioning. But some people won't be able to go up the wall, and they'll only be able to go up some of the way. But let's say you're interested in learning it, but you're just not quite there yet in going up. That's okay. There's many things you can do to help build it up, and I'll show you that today. So if you've been liking these classes, you can always leave me a comment. You can like it, you can share it, and it helps me get my practice and my services more out to people. So, and you could always, I say this, and no one's really ever taken me up on it, but if you sent me a video, I could tell you exactly what to do in terms of helping you get up more or to balance more. And it could be anyone that has experience in handstands. That's any skill that you're looking to build and you haven't been able to get there. I would reach out to someone to help you with that, and there's more than ever, there's great teachers out there. You just have to find someone, and you could shop around in terms of price. Some people are more expensive than others, but I highly recommend that if you're just kind of spinning your wheels and you haven't achieved your handstand yet. So it's a process. It takes, for some people it might take a very long time, and it can be frustrating, and that's why I say get the support of another person where you're actually getting help in the process of learning a handstand or anything that it is that you're looking to develop in practice. So I don't have, you could use a wall if you do have a wall. It could be a corner of a wall. It doesn't have to be like a flush wall. I just have this clean wall just so that it's better for you guys to see it. I'm going to use a block in terms of measuring, but if you didn't have a block, you could use a book. You don't have to have a block, but a lot of the balance component is really learning how to control your hands and how to get your shoulders over your hands. So when people kick up, their shoulders, it's usually obtuse, and then they can't kick up. And then the shoulders are acute, where it's over the hand, the wrist, and they fall out. So if you have a repetitive, every time you kick up, you fall out, you're probably too far forward with the shoulders. If you're a person that kicks up and you're like, I've been kicking up for years, I still can't get up, you have to bring your shoulders more forward. And that's it's really simple, but it can be complex, right? And that's why I think it's so important to record yourself practicing, and you'll get the feedback that you actually need to help you with these things. So we're going to start in an all-four position. My hands are underneath my shoulders, and my index fingers are forward in space, and I'm just moving the weight around laterally. So I'm just kind of moving around side to side. And this is, very much like if you fell out, you're going to bring more weight into one hand, and that's why you'll cartwheel out. And that's part of the process in learning it. So if you are kicking out in the middle of the room, or if you're kicking it up in the middle of the room, you want to have enough space that if you did fall to one side, that you would cartwheel. I think that's a safer route than going straight over your hands. If you had a lot of flexibility, some women do, you could drop into a back bend, but I like having this space so that you don't get hurt. But I'm going to move my hands back where my hands are turned back, and then the same thing as I'm moving the weight laterally. And this is, just a general, there's very specific things you can do for your hands, repetitions. I've said this before about having like a set program. That's something that I'm getting more and more into in terms of service for people. And that's really good because it helps you keep, it's like a schedule. You'll stay on track in doing things, and then with any program, you're either going to make it more progressive, or you're going to pull back and make it more user friendly, like where it's, not too out of your range in terms of capacity. So I'm going to turn the hands forward, and then with my hands forward, I'm just going to push through the hands and widen my shoulders, and I'm just going to lift my knees a little bit off the floor, and I'm just moving the weight forward into the hands. So this is really, really basic, but it's probably going to be a little bit more difficult than, say, plank. But the nice thing is when you're up like that, you'll get good tension in the shoulders. You'll really understand how to hold it, and then it'll equate to being like up in, like an L position. Handstand is probably the first stage, and then going up into the wall walk, right, which we're going to do today. But I'm going to push through the hands. I'm going to round through the shoulders. I'm going to lift up into plank, and then as I'm here, right, I'm spreading out the scapula, right? And then I'm going to come up into a down dog just to give you a little bit of a break in your legs. I'm pulling the hips back in space, reaching down through the heels of my feet, right? Pushing strong through my fingertips, through my knuckles. And with handstands, your shoulders are up toward your ears, right? You're really up with the scapula, and by lifting the scapula, that's what's going to help create a better straight line. So when someone's, in an overhead position for handstand, right, say I'm in a handstand, is that if the shoulders are down towards the ears, you'll start to sway a bit, right? When you see someone that's in a curvature handstand, there's nothing wrong with that. That's it's probably gonna look like that initially, but as you extend up through the scapula, you're gonna find that you're gonna have a better line, and you'll also have a better control. What you won't have with that is endurance. It takes more energy. So let's say you're trying to get to 10 seconds. Even 10 seconds you can burn out pretty quick in doing that. But I think it's better to learn how to control it and to create a better line. And then you can increase your conditioning in terms of holding it longer. Because it takes practice. It's especially I never really thought it was important to get to a minute, but then it became more of a popular thing, and I was like, hey, I'll try to get to a minute. Years ago I had a very good handstand, but I never really timed it or anything like that. I was doing a lot of Ashtanga yoga, but getting to a 1 minute handstand is a great goal to have, and your minute is going to be first 10 seconds, right? Then 20 seconds, consistently getting to 30 seconds. And that's something that you can do every day. Okay, I'm just going to time it. I'm going to practice and see how long I can hold it. And that, that doesn't take much. You do the proper warm-up, you get into it, you just go up. And that can be your practice. So I'm going to go up into down dog again. As I'm in down dog, I'm pedaling the legs out. I'm going to transfer the weight from one hand to the other and walking back towards my feet. I'm going to walk forward again. As I'm walking forward, right, I'm purposely bringing my shoulders more forward past my wrist. Right? This isn't plank, but when you're really learning up to kick up into handstand, the reality is you're probably going to be here a little bit, and you want to prepare for that so it's not overwhelming in the wrist. But I'm going to go back up into down dog. I'm walking back again, right? Just some general conditioning, and this is really the practice of walking up the wall. So I'm going to walk forward, and walking forward, say you do a lot of handstands, turn the hands out slightly, save your wrist. Even if you don't have pain in the wrist, this is a better angle, right? If my hands are turned in too much, one day it might be just too much compression in the wrist. So go back up into down dog and take it back where your hands are back toward your feet. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to walk forward a little bit just so that you can see me better. But I'm gonna press through my right leg, so my right leg is straight. Right, and then I'm gonna press through my left leg. So if you're really tight in terms of lower body, this is why I'm doing it. You have a good forward bend, it'll feel good. You don't necessarily have to do it. But my right leg is expressed, and then my left leg is expressed, my right heel is up. And this is a good way to get more specific stretching into one leg individually. So you had a surgery on one side at some point in your life, most likely that side is tighter, right? Push to the right foot, lift the left heel. Right? One more time, press through the left foot, lift the right heel. Right? Go back to right, left heel is up, right heel is down. And then left heel is up and right heel is up. So left heel is down and my left leg is straight. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate my feet a little bit wider than my shoulders, and I'm going to grab my elbows. I'm pulling my hips back in space, right? And then I'm just going to sit into a squat. So I'm upright, my heels could be up. Again, I'm just giving you a little bit of a warm-up. Typically, again, I'm focusing more on this class if you're more of like a beginner. It's good to have like a, somewhat of a slower, more methodical type of warm-up. If you're experienced, you can get into things a little bit quicker. But it's nice to just be a little bit more thoughtful, because a lot of it, in terms of balancing on your hands, a lot of it is technical, but some of it is just really just having the awareness. And that's what I think, like more of like a subtle or like a basic practice is so good. Right, like a really easy practice where you can really kind of get more into things, as opposed to just doing them and getting done with the practice, which can happen right at times. I'm gonna come back into a forward bend. So I'm folding forward. I'm moving the weight into my hands, and then I'm moving the weight back into my heels. So I'm moving it forward, lifting the hips, applying pressure in my hands, and sitting back. Going back again. Right. Back into the heels. Just a couple more times. Coming forward. Push, push, push. So you should really feel the strong energy in the hands and the arms. One more time, I'm going to come forward. Like push really hard through your hands. And then come back, but now come into a crouch. So my heels are up, my back is extended, and the reason I do things differently sometimes for people is so that they realize what's actually better for them. I could simply say, this is better for you, but that's not the case. You have to play around with positions and techniques to really realize what's actually better for yourself. And when someone's like, no, this is the way, that was the way for them, most likely, and they got so much benefits from personally for them, and then they're like, everybody should be doing it that way. Like right now, my thing is I'm fully transitioning into like full like barefoot shoes, like minimalist shoes, and I've had them in the past, or kind of, but I haven't always had all of my shoes like that, and it's been very interesting. My feet are developing really, really quick. I mean, most of the time I'm barefoot because I teach so much yoga privately and in groups and trainings, so most of my adult life I've been barefoot, right? But when I go into shoes, it does change things. But to be barefoot all the time is a very different thing. And I'm mentioning that because I've benefited so much from it. But I'm going to come back onto my hands and my knees. And this is a big part of learning how to control the hands, like getting strength in your hands. Like I said about the wall walks, it's good to walk up and down. I mean, you're going to get conditioned through your hands, your arms, like it's your abdomen. I like it because it's really covering a lot of different areas of practice. And then with what I'm going to use now, it's a little bit more like supplemental. It's what you can get from a wall walk, but again, maybe you can't walk up, right? So I'm going to bring a block here, and I'm going to be at a 90-degree angle, and my hands are turned out. So this makes things very specific in the alignment of your shoulder. So what you're going to do is be lifting the heel of your hands off the floor, and we're going to try to do 5 to 10, right? If you've never done these before, 5 will be a lot, right? 10 is what I typically use I do sometimes do more, like say I don't have a lot of time, I'll do 20, 30 of these. So I'm bringing the weight forward, I'm lifting the heels of my hands off the floor, and then I'm lowering. So I'm lifting, I'm lowering, lifting, I'm lowering. These are, when you see someone do them and it looks easy, they have experience in it, right? These are very difficult to do. So when you're taking your hands off the floor, in terms of walking up towards the wall where your chest is towards the wall, this is the same type of strength that you're going to develop. It's very similar. It's way more progressive doing it up, and that's why I'm using it more for the warm-up. So we're going to do 3 more. Up, slowly down, up, slowly down. If you want to be stronger on the up, you can. Down, and then last time up, and then slowly lowering it down. So then go back into turning the hands back towards the knees. So the hands are turned back. Now with the hands turned back, I'm just going to move weight back into my fingertips. So I'm moving it back. I'm moving the weight around, stretching out the forearms, right? And then I'm coming back where I'm turning my hands forward. I'm going to lift my knees off the floor. I'm up in plank, right? Really strong here. And then I'm going to come back down with my knees. I'm going to sit back on my heels if I can. So I'm in this toe stand position, right? But I'm going to show like going up and down in a position very similar to a handstand. So say you don't have the experience of doing handstands, this is a good way. Could be just like 5 seconds up and down, and that could be for reps. You could do it 5 times, you could do it 10 times. But I notice with people, like, say you don't have a lot of strength, people will start to do, like, they'll just try to get to 10, but they really should only do, like, 3, but really, really well. See, I'm much more favorable of, like, quality over quantity. So if you're really doing, like, 2 or 3, but really very good, it'll equate to better practice. So what I do is I bring my hands down, I'm going to untuck the toes, I'm really widening the shoulders, and I'm lifting the knees, and I'm pressing up, right? Press, 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 press through the hands, and then I'm coming down, right? So you're vacuuming in, not so much like a Kriya in yoga, right? But you're making this stronger, and then it's supporting like a stronger position being on your hands. I'm going to do a couple more. And then, like I said, if you're a person that needs more of these, you could do them. At some point you want to top it off, you could do plank, because plank's going to be easier in some ways. So I'm going to press through the hands, widen the shoulders, grip the floor, and then press up, right? Not that this is working towards like kicking. I mean, surely you could do that. I'm just using it for those that can't come up to the wall, right? I'm coming down, resting, I'm sitting upright. And I've said this before, when you get into practice, say 5 minutes, 10 minutes into practice, you're just tired. You could, that's a day. You just rest. And if it's not too strong, you could certainly do it the next day. It's just when it's really heavy, like I did like a heavier, more dynamic practice a couple days ago. I don't need to do that every day, right? So I'm going to bring the hands down. I'm going to widen my shoulders. I'm going to lift up. Push, 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 push through the hands. And then I'm coming back down, right? So that could be what you're going to do for repetition. Now I'm going to go up to the wall, and I'm going to I'm not going to be quite all the way to the wall. I'm going to be more like a 90-degree angle. And these are good in trying to get your legs over. So one leg will be over your hands or shoulders. And then what we're trying to do is get the other leg to match the leg that's in alignment, right? So you're going from one leg being at a 90-degree angle back up into the straight line that you want. But the thing is you don't want to pull the leg away from the wall. That's what people, it's not a bad thing. But to really get stronger in the hands and to get better alignment, you want to get the leg in that alignment from the use of your hands, from the use of your shoulders. And there's a big difference to it. And if it doesn't happen, it's like I said, it's a process. It's like it's never super critical. Like I joke about this when I'm teaching with group classes. It's never like life threatening. Like you want to get it, but you don't have to get it today. It's really not that important. But if you feel good after your practice, you can practice tomorrow, right? It's those that don't feel very good in practice, they start to lose practice. You want to keep your practice, right? It's for me, it's a very vital piece of my life. So my hands are down, my shoulders are rounded, my fingers are forward, and I'm pressing really strong into the floor, right? So what we're going to do is come up, then you're walking up to the wall, right? So I'm here pressing, so you got to watch out for the light switch, and then I'm bringing my shoulders over my hands, and then I'm taking that one leg up, right? I'm taking that leg up, and I'm pushing through the hands. Then I'm bringing the right leg down or into the wall, and then I'm taking the left leg up. I'm pushing, right? Intuitively, you'll want to bring the leg more forward, but what you want is just to get the shoulders over the hands, pressing, and then we're going to come down, and then that's the exercise. So it's if you're not working with a partner, it's very difficult to hold a 90-degree angle. Like there's this great way of doing it is you could push into the pelvis with hands or feet. That's a good way if you got a partner. But if you don't have a partner, you do it just doing single legs. And don't think so much that you have to get both feet over your shoulders, your hands. Just a great exercise to really get good practice in terms of getting you to be more up on your hands. But I'm gonna do a stretch in between, because for your shoulders, you may not be able to get the line that you want, and the line makes a difference. So if you can create a better alignment, it'll be easier to take the legs more forward. And for women, just in general, women will be a little bit more flexible. And like I said, you're gonna want to bring your legs forward more, but it's more of really learning how to push through the hands and getting that alignment right. So I'm gonna just to show you from the side is what it'll look like when we're at the wall. Is I'm here, but I'm hollowed, right? And people will say, "Well, you're rounded," in a more of like a gymnastics handstand, you're more hollowed, or like say like a professional arm balance. Someone that can do it professionally, right? They can do it many ways. But for us that are a little bit more on the lower scale of learning these things or practicing them, the hollow position is what you want to get to a little bit more and more. And of course, like as you develop, there's other ways, right? But I'm going to go to the wall. My hands are like down dog, and you want to bring enough pressure into the chest and the shoulders to stretch out the shoulders enough so that you can create this alignment that I'm talking about. But just if you can, lift yourself up as I did. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the wall and use my hands. So my back will be to the wall. It's not really the best angle to see it, but I'll talk about it, right? So my hands are at the wall. They're about a little bit higher than my shoulders, and then I'm stepping back. And if you're, inexperienced with this, be very conservative. You don't have to be very far away from the wall. But as you want more leverage in your chest and your shoulders, your feet will be further away from the wall. And I'm trying to keep my tailbone down and my ribs in, and I'm pushing into the wall. Creating this great extension through the arms, through the shoulders. Take 3 more breaths. Right, breathe in, breathe out. And then I'm going to walk to the wall to come out of this. And then I'm going to come back down where I'm down, and I'm going to do I'll do one more of the wall walk that I did. So it's like a 90-degree, that's I'm sure there's a name for it. I don't have a name for it. It's a single leg 90-degree handstand at the wall. We can call it that, right? So the hands are down, the hands are turned out, and just think of, again, pushing quite strong through the hands. And the stronger you get through pushing, the better control you'll have. And how you can really be in control of the position. You know, you don't want to just be lucky. You know, I see people and they kick up, and sure, they can get 2-3 seconds, and that's good. That's a good starting point. But you eventually, if you're serious about this, I think it's better to get more control and the skill of it, and you can learn a lot from it. So, you know, obviously the practice offers a lot in the process of learning a new skill. So I'm gonna bring my hands down. Hands are just underneath the shoulders. I'm just pushing, I'm protracting my shoulders. So maybe this is all that you're doing, right? But I'm gonna go back where my feet are up against the wall, and then I'm pushing my shoulders over my hands, my wrists, and then I'm taking that leg up, but I'm trying to remember what I did at the wall, right? In terms of stretching the shoulders. So push, 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 push through the hands, and then bring the right leg to the wall, take the left leg up. You could point or flex the foot. So then as I'm pushing, push, 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 lift through the tailbone, right? Use your fingertips. Bring the left leg into the wall, bring the right leg up one more time. If you can, keep the ribs in. Push. And then take the right leg to the wall, left leg up last time. So push, push. And then bringing the feet down. And you can come into a squat. So again, a little bit more methodical than just, I've been, I guess, on a, just like kind of like, hey, let's do some wall walks. You know, because again, that's great, but I know that's not necessarily going to work for everyone. So I just wanted to give you a different spin on, you know, how to achieve it. So let's do one more stretch of the shoulders because I think it's a good practice to have. But I'm going to do it a little bit differently at the wall, but on the floor. And then we'll finish up with like some abdominals, like a hollow body. And that's a really basic practice, but it could be a very good starting point. And like I said, if it was something too difficult, we can make it even easier. Say it's easy, but not as progressive as you need it. You know, there's ways to bump it up as well. Right? So come down on your belly. Again, my back will be to you, so you won't really see me. But think of the goal of this is to get your chest away from the wall, right? Or away from the floor, because we're going to be on our abdomen. So come down. I'm pressing my hands into the wall. My feet are together, and my pelvis is rooting down. So I'm trying to get more of a posterior tilt in my pelvis. And then I'm pushing my hands to the wall. My head is down. And then I'm trying to get my ribs away from the floor. So I'm trying to get my ribs away from the floor. Bringing it in. Pulling it in. Right? So, not that you want to push through your head, but just get a little bit more away from the floor with your chest. And that's going to help. You know, it's difficult to do. There's other good ways that you could do this in terms of lining up your chest and your shoulders, but that's a good way. And like I said about using different techniques, you'll find out what's actually more effective than not. You know, not to totally disregard some things, you know, that's why I think it's good to cycle things. So I'm going to come onto my back. And then when I'm on my back, I'm going to have just an easy version, just to make it easy for you, is take the arms overhead and bring your knees over your pelvis and bring your lower back in the floor. Super simple, but this could be very good for your back, right? So you overly arc your back. It's a simple exercise. So I could take my right leg forward and my belly is in, my ribs are in. I can take my knees over my hips. I can take my left leg forward. And some of these more basic things, they're not as flashy, but they're just as effective, right? So bring the knees over the hips, bring the right leg forward, keeping the left knee over the pelvis. It's very easy to just kind of be lazy. You want to keep your belly down and in. Bring your left leg forward, right leg is over the pelvis. Right? I can hold a block, if you prefer that. Right? Bring the knees over the hips, bring the right leg forward. My head is down, ribs are in. Bring the knees over the hips, bring the left leg forward. Keep it in, nice and strong. One more time, right leg forward, and just notice which leg, which side is more difficult. That can help you in terms of practice. Bring the right leg in, bring the left leg forward. Pull it back in and bring the feet down. You can bring the block down. Now I'm going to take my feet underneath my knees, my hands over my elbows, and I'm going to lift my hips off the floor. My heels are elevated or flat. So if you haven't had a little experience in terms of back bending where you're not quite getting the extension in your upper back, that's what's good to have the heels up. So I'm going to slowly bring my upper back down, my mid back down, my low back down. I'm going to lift it up again. And it could be higher, it really just depends on where I'm at in terms of practice on the day. There's times when I'm pushing more, and there's times when I'm being a little bit more selective with how I push. So I'm bringing my upper back down, my mid back down. This is good training for the legs as well. Very good for the hamstrings. I'm going to lift the hips, lift through the spine, getting weight into my shoulders, and then slowly bringing my upper back down, bringing my mid back down, bringing my low back and my pelvis. And I'm just going to bring my feet together and my knees wide. I'm going to push into my thighs, push into my legs. And before I have anyone rest, and when I'm with people, it's maybe you need something else, right? Maybe you need to stretch more. Maybe you're ready to rest. I'm not going to do a relaxation, but you can certainly relax, play some nice music, set a timer too. It's always good to set a timer. You don't want to be in a pose ever too long. And then I'm going to bend my knees. I'm going to roll to my left side. I'm going to bring myself up, and I'm going to come just into a basic seated position. So I hope that class was good for you. You can always, again, leave me a comment. You could share it if you found it very beneficial. And like I said, it's a process. You can take notes of your practice, record yourself, take photos of yourself, study, in the yoga tradition, it's self-study, and that's true in other traditions as well. You're studying yourself, and then as you realize all these things about your practice, right, it's giving you more perspective in life. So I hope it's helping you mentally, physically, spiritually. And again, I'm available if you ever needed me in terms of service, you just need someone to talk to about developing practice. I can consult with you. I can develop a plan for you. If it was a plan that you wanted to develop a skill or a few skills, there's ways of strategically supporting that. If you wanted to practice more than one skill, it's a little bit, it's possible to do, but you want to strategically schedule it. And that's what I was talking about, having a plan. There's a big difference in that. So have a beautiful weekend. If I don't see you in class tomorrow, obviously I won't see you, but I have a class tomorrow, and that's at 9 a.m. And that's more of a basic class. I'm going to be manipulating the spine, which I think is so important. And I say this all the time about the people that take a more dynamic practice, they probably won't take a more subtle practice. But they probably need a more subtle practice more than they need a dynamic practice. And those that take a more subtle practice, a gentle practice, probably could benefit from a more physical practice. So you gotta melt the worlds together if you're really looking for a more dynamic practice. If you want to keep playing tennis or dancing, embrace more soft practices, just as an example. All right, have a beautiful day, and hopefully I'll see you soon.